Today we're gonna make kind bar copycats. It's a super easy recipe that doesn't involve any sort of baking, just a little heating on the stove and a little mixing and a little patience, and that's it. Super easy to take on the go for a snack, pre-workout, or just in the afternoon. And they're crunchy and a little bit sweet, a little less sweet than their counterparts, and just a little drizzle of chocolate to finish them off. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to hit the subscribe button below and click the bell icon to be notified every time I post a new and delicious recipe. Let's get into it. So no bake, super easy situation that we've got going on right now. It's just like a little bit of like things, a little activity. So we're gonna prepare a pan. Go ahead and give it like a little, I just spray it. We're not spraying it so that it like is sticking in there or anything. We're just spraying it so it kind of gives it a little something to stick to. I cut my parchment to be the size of this pan. This pan's like it's like a little smaller. It's closer to an 8 by an 8, but you could also use a 9 by 9. And then I'm gonna take my sides and try and keep them tight and kind of cinch them down. Now I'm trying to do this because my parchment doesn't actually want to stay where I've placed it. We're not gonna bake it, so it's not really, its usual purpose is to keep it from flying and flopping down on top of your brownie or whatever in the oven, but this is more to keep it so that it's easy for us to get our bars in the pan without a whole lot of fuss. So that's all we're doing here. I mean, since we're not baking anything, we might as well take like 3 seconds to line our pan appropriately. You could spray that, but it's parchment, so you don't really need to spray it, and there's really no sense in that. Okay, so the next thing that we're gonna do, let's put all of our dry ingredients into our bowl here. We're gonna give this a little light spray, just because once you put the wet ingredients that have been cooked, almost like granola in a way, it's gonna wanna stick to the sides of your bowl, and you want all of that goodness in the bars. So I've got almonds, whole almonds that I have toasted. These are dry roasted peanuts, so obviously those are already roasted. You could use unsalted peanuts, but you're gonna wanna roast them. Peanuts are weird when they're not roasted, in my opinion. Okay, we've got walnuts. I didn't toast those because I don't love the flavor of toasted walnuts. I just love raw walnuts, but you could toast those if you want. And then I've got puffed cereal for a little crunch, and this is flaxseed meal. Okay. Everything else is gonna go in our pot. So that's that. If you wanna give it a little toss, you could give it a little toss. In our pot, we are going to put, I've got 2 open containers of molasses. It's like very upsetting for me. So we're gonna fix that situation. I'm gonna give my measuring cup a little spray. I'm gonna make it easier for everything to come out. We'll do the honey first, since that is not a stressful situation. So we're gonna do 2 tablespoons here. It should just run right out because of our spray. Boom. Okay, done. There we go, all right. All right. We will scrape the rest of this into here as well because this wasn't quite full. I want 2 full tablespoons. So just go ahead and get that. All right. Second one, a little easier. A little twist, mess free, and into our pot. Yours, of course, is not going to take this long because you have not opened 2 things of molasses. All right, the only other 2 things that are going to go in our little pot here is vanilla. You can, of course, add that after you heat it, if you'd like, and then a bit of kosher salt. Okay, and without further ado, we'll just pop this on our lowest, smallest, least powerful burner, which is still way too powerful. And we're gonna stir it. It's gonna come to a boil, and then we're gonna continue to boil it until it kind of darkens and you start to smell a bit of a roasty, honey, kind of almost caramelization. It's not caramelizing sugar. It's not gonna smell the exact same as that, but it will smell a little you know, a little deeper, a little richer, and that's what we want. And then we'll take that and we're gonna pour it on top of our bowl, which I'm gonna place on top of a towel, because that way it's gonna keep this warm as long as possible, because this is going to be hot but sticky, and then it's gonna set very quickly, and we wanna mix it all into our nuts without it kind of setting in the bowl. Now, that's why we've got everything ready. You could also pre-warm your nuts, kind of like you do with nougat. You're like, what? You do what with nougat? I'll do a video sometime. Now, we're just gonna wait for this to boil. It's not very much in here, so it's not gonna take too terribly long. We are boiling, finally. So go ahead and just kind of stir it every now and again. We're gonna wait for it to kind of caramelize. You're gonna notice it will thicken considerably. It is, you know, it's not gonna take very long because this is a very small batch, and you don't wanna burn it because burned molasses tastes terrible. I can smell the honey through the molasses. You kind of have to get a little closer, but you can smell it through, and the honey caramelization is really what we're looking for. It's going to be almost impossible to tell the color because the molasses is obviously super dark, but you should be able to smell. Oh yeah, okay. So I can smell that my honey has started to kind of caramelize. I'm also just very familiar with that smell. So it might take you a couple tries to realize it. You can see that it's a little bit more amber. It is definitely holding itself, and I don't want it to burn, so we are done here. So go ahead and take this, pour this all over your dry mixture, and then give that a little toss. Now it's gonna set fairly quickly, but you're not stressed about that because we sprayed our bowl. We've got the towel underneath it, and we are all ready for it. So we are not stressed. Always likes to stick in the center, so just go ahead, try and get that bit out, and then we're gonna pop this over into our pan. Okay. Now you can see that it's already set on the sides. It just do like that. No big deal. So we're just gonna kind of press this down. I find it easier to do this with like more of a firm spatula. If you want to use an offset, you can, but sometimes those are a little bit too flimsy for this activity. The goal is obviously to get it as flat and as even as possible. Once it cools a little bit more, you could do this with your hand. I just really want it to be nice and beautifully flat. All right, so that's about as good as we are gonna get it. And our work is done. So basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna let this sit for at least 20 minutes. We want it to kind of set, cool. You don't wanna put the melted chocolate on here right now because it's just going to melt all over the place. And we want that nice little drizzle. So we're gonna let this kind of sit. If your room is half as warm as mine, you might wanna put it in the fridge. But we will cut this in about 20 minutes. And then we'll finish it up. All right, so it has been plenty of time, and we are ready to cut and finish assembling our kind bars, Copycats. All right, so go ahead and just take off the little things, pull it out. See how easy that was? Oh my goodness, just gonna go ahead and unstick it. And then we are going to slice them, obviously. So we're going ahead, we'll do 10 little pieces. So go ahead and cut them in half, and then each side we'll kind of cut into 5. So it's a little, you know, little mind bender for you. Now, we're gonna drizzle it with chocolate. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually put it on a different piece of parchment because I want them spread apart. All right, so go ahead and pull these off. Kind of, you know, put them just a little offset. Makes them easier to drizzle. Got a hefty one over here. It's fine. Those are set. I have mostly melted my chocolate. You can still see kind of the chip outlines. And then I'm going to just put a little bit of coconut oil in here. And this, in addition to the chocolate, will help, not only will it help it be smoother, like easier to drizzle, but it also it'll set it nice and firm in the fridge. If you If you have tempered chocolate or you just kind of carefully melted it in the microwave, then you don't have to add the coconut oil and it'll set at room temperature. But I mean, my room temperature is like a little bit warm and humid, so it's not gonna set at just room temperature. All right, now you could just drizzle it with this. Obviously, that would be 100% cool. But I'm gonna put it in a little cornet. You could also put this in a piping bag, but I find this easier, especially for small batches. You can watch my video on how to make a cornet up there. And then we'll just go ahead and fill it. You don't want to overfill it. Key point with cornets, especially with chocolate. Find yourself. So you could also write with this, this is basically like a pencil. All right, now you want to fold it away from the seam. Keep it tight. Okay, and then we'll snip the tip. Start it small, although we want a nice, a decent sized thing. So we can just kind of start with one. You see how that makes like a really nice, even, smooth line. You don't want to stress about the actual paper or any of that. That's why it's there, to catch any of the drippings. Now, if I wanted to be really helpful to myself, I could have put this already on a baking sheet and then I wouldn't have to transfer it to one, but here we are. We're basically done. It needs to set. Obviously the chocolate is really warm, and we are going to let it sit. I mean, it's gonna take like 5 minutes max. So I'm gonna go ahead and just carefully transfer this. It's time to try. So they chilled for a moment, and now the chocolate is set, and they are ready for a munchin. Munchin? Who says that? All right. Okay. It was bigger than I intended. All right, I've recovered from my giant bite, which I do not regret, because it is crunchy and a little bit sweet, and you get a little the hit of the chocolate that's drizzled on top, and it's just like the bar that shall not be named, but a little less sweet than that, which I love. And it's just like a healthy snack, easily toteable. You can definitely, they're actually more enjoyable to eat not straight out of the fridge. And so your chocolate, as long as you didn't completely melt it down, it should still be a little bit in temper, or you can temper your chocolate. And then, you can keep it at room temperature. Perfectly toteable.